Hi, this is Dr. Judith from The Power of You, and I'm here to talk about relationships. Relationships, more of the quality of intimate relationships, and why they are so exasperating at times, so rewarding at other times, so intriguing in many ways. And I have a question for you. My question is, from the relationships that you have been involved with, what are you learning? What are you learning about yourself? What are you learning about the type of person that you're attracted to? What are you learning about the situations that you find yourself in? So that's the question I have. And I have 3 to 4 quick tips to help you to think about that because relationships, I believe, are here to help us to grow. Yes, we're looking for love and appreciation and affection and want to have a lifelong partner. And we want to have fun and engaging types of experiences and adventures that we go on in terms of vacations and in terms of our work that we do. We want to be able to share that information. There are things that we are looking for in the relationship, but it's also important for you to think about when I get involved in a relationship and you think about the relationship that you've had over maybe 3 or 4 over a past few years. So, first and foremost, think about what is it that I'm learning in terms of themes in those relationships? What do I notice about the person that I'm attracted to? What do I notice about the types of things that get me frustrated in the relationship? What do I notice about how I am treated and I would like to be treated in the relationship? There are usually themes that go on in our relationships that we have. If we're willing to look at that and start to reflect on those themes and look at it from the lens of behaviors. What types of behaviors I have found that I engage in? I may get exasperated or frustrated easily when a person doesn't show up on time, and it seems like it's a pattern on their part that they're always a little bit late. And so you want to say, okay, is this a theme that keeps on showing up in my relationships? And what do I want to do about it? We don't have control over the other person, but we do have control over ourselves. And so we can say, okay, I'm going to work on being more patient when a person's not showing up, or I'm going to work on telling the individual that one of the things that are important for me is that people show up on time. So how well, and this is the next kind of awareness, and you're kind of building this, what am I learning from my relationships? It relates to, do I tend to be invisible in the relationship? I'm not talking very much. I'm very quiet. You may have a quiet nature to you, but I'm not sharing very much of myself. Even those individuals who are more introverted and quiet on a one-on-one should be sharing more about themselves and engaged in the conversation with the other person, helping them to understand you and you understanding them. What am I learning? What am I noting? Do I get too comfortable in letting other people share about themselves? And then I get frustrated when I find that I'm not being heard or being validated for what I have to say and for them to look at what's important to me. We seem to have this balancing act that goes on that the degree that we may be introverted is the degree that we may attract someone who's more extroverted. Not always, but many times. And so the extroverted person is learning how to pipe down a little bit and engage and ask more questions of their partner. And the person who tends to be more introverted is working on piping up a little bit on a one-on-one basis in order to share their ideas and their thoughts. And even though it may be more challenging, it doesn't mean that you don't have thoughts and feelings to share. And so you may have to think about what is the type of environment that I need that I could be able to readily share. So think about that for yourself. The other thing that I wanted to talk about when you're thinking about relationships you've been involved in the past and looking at this theme about what are you learning, what are you taking away from it, one of those themes is how well do I forgive? How well do I let go of hurts, pain, and difficulties that I had in that relationship? How well do I try to figure out how can I grow from this experience that I find myself in? That it didn't work out, but I did take this away. And what is this? So it's important sometimes to write down, like in a journal or in your phone, in your notes section on your phone, what am I learning from the past relationships that I've been involved in? Getting back to what are those themes? What are the types of people I'm attracted to? Some of that is in age, what we're attracted to in our teens may be quite different to the type of person we're attracted to in our 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. You're having to kind of recalibrate yourself and realize I'm not the same person that I was when I was 18 and now I'm 28. And what are those experiences I'm learning from and reflecting on that I can incorporate into how I help people to understand what is important to me in the relationship and what types of qualities or characteristics or values that are important to me, and how do I go about sharing those things to the other person so we can figure out if we do have a connection or we don't have a connection with each other. The more straightforward, the more honest you are about who you are and what your needs are, the more you can get a better clarity of whether that particular person can be able to be a partner to you to share, or they really are going in a different direction, which is fine. I mean, dating is for the opportunity to figure out where you connect and where you don't connect. So there's no negativity in dating. It's more of what am I learning from the dating? What am I learning from the experiences that I'm going through with the dates? What am I setting up as boundaries to say there's certain behaviors don't go here? When a person engages in that behavior, you have to think about what do I want to do? How do I want to convey that? How do I want to make sure this person knows that there's a limit to how much I will take in their behaviors towards me? And that may be how they speak to you, and it may be rough or rude. Communication becomes really important. And if you're not saying anything, that they continue to do it. But because you haven't set up a boundary or you have not set up, that's not the way I like to be treated. It may be related to people keeping their word, for example, be it male or female or whatever side, is that they're not keeping their word. They're not following through on what they're going to say they're going to do. Are you quiet about that? Or do you say something about that? Again, what are you learning? Do I tend to be more quiet when they don't? And what happens sometimes when we're quiet is it builds up in us and then we burst. It's like the pressure cooker that goes off. And people are saying, wow, what's going on? You seem like you're overreacting. Is that because you held it back for a long period of time? And you should have been saying something and letting them know this is not right. I really would prefer if you would keep your word. If you say you're going to do something, please do it. Otherwise, it's hard for me to trust. And that's the other issue sometimes coming up too, is that when there is not that reliability or stability factor in what a person says they're going to do, then we kind of get into this question mark of whether we can trust them or not trust them, or they're going to follow through or not follow through. And it takes a lot of energy. So one of the things you're learning in relationships that you're involved in is what is my impact upon them? What is their impact upon me? What do I notice in terms of the behaviors I engage in? And what did I notice in terms of how I communicate, actively or passively? What do I notice in terms of when we get into conflict with each other? How do we manage that? Is there a theme to that? I tend to back down and I tend to allow the other person to be right, even though they may not be right, but it's just the easier thing to do, quote unquote. It's the easier thing to do, but you don't have a voice. They think that by them expressing themselves, be either partner expressing themselves in a very firm and strong or loud way, that pipes you down. But you have to think about, I still need to say something and say, I don't appreciate how you're raising your voice because I would prefer to have a conversation, but it looks like you want to get into an argument. And I really don't want to go there. I don't want to get into an argument with you. I want to figure out a way that we can work this through. So again, you're looking at what do I notice that's going on in my relationships? What are those themes that are taking place? And what is it that I need to be more active about in terms of communication? And what is it that I need to be more flexible about around, does that really matter in the grand scheme of things and my interactions? And then also, do I always need to be right? Because we don't necessarily have to be right, but we have to be willing to communicate and talk things through. All those become important elements to what you're learning and how you can grow in your relationships that you have with those individuals that you are attracted to and those individuals to want to work on the relationship too. So what am I learning? How am I growing? How am I advancing? That's key. So think about that. This is Dr. Judith from The Power of You, where we are going to be talking much more about relationships and all types of relationships as we move forward in this channel. Please feel free to subscribe, like, and let other people know about this YouTube channel. Take care.